Today we're going to give you a quick demonstration of ambient occlusion in Relight. Ambient occlusion is a technique for modeling the soft shadows cast by a very diffuse light source. So we're going to start out with our quick start T-Rex scene, compute all, which computes the shadow maps, rasterizes, and shades. So that's our initial image. And the scene initially contains three light sources, the three spotlights called key, rim, and fill. And in the shader tree we can click on each to see the contribution of each of those light sources. And what we're going to do is add a light source, an ambient light source, which is just going to add a constant level of illumination to the entire scene. So we can connect that to our light set, re-render, and that's the result. You can see it's very harsh. We can lower the intensity to make it a little softer, but what we really need is shadows. So what we're going to do is add to the shader tree an ambient occlusion shader. There are two kinds in Relight, one based on ray tracing and one based on point clouds. We're going to use the point cloud version, which is faster. So the first thing we need to do is to create the point cloud, and there are a couple parameters we need to set first. One is the viz group, that is, which objects in the scene are going to be casting shadows. In this case, we're going to pick a viz group which contains everything, because everything can cast a shadow. And we also need to set an attribute called disk radius, which is the size of the points in the cloud. So we're using our little ruler tool here to get a sense of the dimensions of the scene, and we're using that to set the size of the points. Then we compute the point cloud. That's done, and here's what it looks like. Point cloud with points in the entire scene. And now we view with that shader, and that's the result of the ambient occlusion computation. And the ambient occlusion is plugged into the color of the ambient light, so that's what the ambient light looks like with the ambient occlusion activated. Here's without and with, without, with. We can then change the color of the ambient light if we want, make it a little blue. And the ambient occlusion has already been calculated once and for all, so that doesn't need to be done again. So reshading is very quick. One other thing we're going to show you now is a little trick you can do with ambient occlusion. You can see here in this scene there are three relatively sharp shadows corresponding to each of the spotlights, which is normal. It's normal, but it might not be quite what you're looking for as a lighter. You might want to just have one main sharp shadow and not have shadows generated by the other light sources. So what we can do, a little cheat, is to get rid of the shadow map for a light source and plug the ambient occlusion into it, which is what we just did here with the fill light. So obviously the result is not physically accurate, but it might correspond more closely to what you as a lighter are looking for. So here we're plugging the ambient occlusion into the color input of two of those spotlights, and you can see the result. We just have a single sharp shadow and diffuse shadows for the rest.